Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again. Return again, return to the land of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the land of your soul.
We gather together this evening on this holiday of Shabbat Shuvah, literally the Shabbat of return. That Shabbat that finds its place right between the beginning of the new year and that moment when we take deep introspection and reflect. This is the time for returning to our deeper selves. And so throughout our service, we will have not just melodies from our High Holy Days, not just themes as well, but we will have special insertions in the service as well. Sections of this service specific for this particular Shabbat. As we go through the project of singing, of reflecting, and of connecting to a deeper self as we shuv, as we return at the beginning of this year. Now, I do have to mention just a couple of housekeeping things. The first is that for everyone who is joining us on Facebook and on YouTube, and on live stream as well, you can see us here on the Bima, but you're not able to see that those of us who are here, and some of us are joining live stream here from the sanctuary. For anyone who is joining, you're not able to see that everyone here is masked, and we are asking, as per LA County guidelines, that we are masked, and of course that includes over our noses as well. Cantor Cooper and I are here at the front with our masks off, and the first few rows are cleared as well, but we have very recently taken a COVID test. We have both tested negative. So a little bit on that. The other thing I want to mention is for those of us who are joining on Facebook and on YouTube, this is an invitation, if you would like, to head over to our website, tilb.org. And of course, you can see the same service from any of the different ones, but if you join on tilb.org and click a little button at the very top, you can write in the chat. Now, why is the chat going to be helpful? There are two reasons. The first is we are going to open it up a little bit. As we get to a part of our service, we are going to do an Ask the Clergy section. And so I'm mentioning that now in case there are any questions that are kind of rolling around in our minds that we have been asking. And yes, we reserve the right to not answer certain questions, but we look forward to your questions. In fact, I have a colleague who says of all of the symbols in all of Judaism, there is nothing more central to who we are as a community, more so than a Jewish star or a picture of the Torah, as it were, than the question mark. And so we will revel in questions this evening. And if you join us on our stream, you can add those onto the stream as well. Not yet, but when we get to that section. The other, of course, is if you have any names of those you'd like to add to the Misha Berach or the Kaddish list, our prayer for healing and our prayer for mourning, that you'll be able to add them on that as well. Well, we know that one of the most powerful acts of returning to our truest self is to allow it to speak out, allow it to be present. And so we bring song into our evening tonight, knowing that that song opens up our hearts, perhaps goes directly to that deepest part of ourselves. And so we sing together this evening. I'd like to invite us to turn to page 12 of our prayer books as we open up these words of sacred writ and open up our hearts and mouths as well. Let's sing together.
Let us sing unto God a new song. Let us sing unto God a new song. Lie, lie, la, lie, 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 la, lie, lie, la, lie. Lie, lie, la, lie, 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 la, lie, 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 la, lie, 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 lie. Lie, lie, la, lie, 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 la, lie, lie, la, lie. Lie, lie, la, lie, 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 la, lie, 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 la, lie, 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 lie. Lechu neranin al Adonai, naria litzur yishenu, nekad mafanav betoldah. Bismirov naria lo, Bismirov naria lo. Yai lai la lai 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 la lai lai, Yai lai la lai lai la lai, Yai lai la lai 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 Yai la lai lai, Yai lai la lai 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 lai. La, 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 la. Let us sing unto God a new song. Let us sing unto God a new song. Lie, lie, la, lie, 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 la, lie, lie. Lie, lie, la, lie, lie, la, lie. Lie, lie, la, lie, 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 la, lie, lie. Lie, lie, la, lie.
Well, on this Shabbat, as we return to that deep self, there can be power in bringing not just melodies, but words that are familiar as well. And so many years ago, the Kabbalists added to our service, and what was, in addition, became canon. And so we continue with Lecha Dodi, a prayer that draws the image of two people bringing their lives together, one that has become so connected to the holiday of Shabbat that it seems like it wouldn't be Shabbat without these words. And so I want to mention a couple of things about it. The first is that we will sing together verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. When we get to the very last verse, bringing into our hearts and into our sanctuary the image of two people bringing their lives together, not now, but when we get to that final verse, we'll actually rise and turn to the door through which we entered our sanctuary, as if we were welcoming someone in to celebrate their wedding on this day. Let's join together, words familiar, as we return to that deep part of ourselves. Page 20.
Lehadodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekavela. Lehadodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekavela. Shamor vezachor b'dibur echad, ishmianu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, v'shemu tiferet ve'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekavela. Hitoreri, kiva orech umiori, uri shidaberi, kavod Adonai alaich nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekavela. Boi veshalom ateret bala, gam besimcha ubzola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekavela.
Please be seated. I think there's an extra little bit of light that surrounds the Shabbat candles. Sometimes if I look closely, I can see something that is more than just the flame. There's a warmth There's a brightness to this holiday. A reminder of the power of ritual to draw out warmth, love, community that is already there, perhaps if we just look closely enough.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue now calling to one another, mirroring the brightness and warmth we find in not one candle but candles together. We stand and join together as one community for the words of Baruch Hu. So I'd like to invite us to turn to page 28 of our prayer books and to please rise in body or in spirit. Page 30. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim b'chochma poteach she'arim uvitfuna mishane itim umachalif et hazmanim misader et hakochavim b'mishmeroteim berakia kirtzono borei yom ba'layla kolel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or Uma'avir yom umevi laila, amavdil bin yom uvein laila. Adonai tzavaot shemo, el chai b'kayam, tamid yimloch alenu leolam ba'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide as your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. And as heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. And so praise to you, Adonai, from whom this evening flows. Page 32.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amcha ahavta Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amcha Beit Yisrael amcha בית ישראל עמך אהבת עולם. בית ישראל עמך
Page 34.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. We just had a little staff meeting.
Yeah, little moment of meeting. Yep. Our next prayer comes to us from not our Torah. It comes from the later writings. It comes from Proverbs, and I think it's not just a reminder, but an invitation. It says, "Olam Chesed Yibaneh." Now, you can read that as perhaps there is a world that is built and that love is an important part of this world being built. But it's also, you can also read it a little bit different. You can read it as an instruction, again, an invitation that we can build this world with love. So I invite us to sing together.
Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Olam chesed yibanei. 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 Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. I will build this world from love. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. And you must build this world from love. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. And if we build this world from love, yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. God will build this world from love. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Olam chesed yibanei. 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 Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. I will build this world from love. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. And you must build this world from love. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. And if we build this world from love, yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Then God will build this world from love. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Olam chesed yibanei. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Olam chesed yibanei. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai. Yadadai, dai, dai, yadadai, dai.
Continue with the Micha Mocha on page 40.
Mi hamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha neder b'kodesh, noru tehilot osef eleh. Malechutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam. Za'eli anu ve'ameru Adonai imloch le'olam vad v'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov uga'alo miat chazok mimenu Baruch et Adonai Gal Yisrael.
There is a power in calling things out. Sometimes things can be invisible without words placed on them, and with the right words, we can truly and fully love and appreciate something that might have gone otherwise. And so set in our evening service is a prayer that calls to mind that little bit of a different feeling that we get on Shabbat. A sheltering presence, perhaps, like angels' wings on our shoulders, a moment to let down. And so we offer thanks this evening for that sheltering presence, that canopy set over our heads this evening, allowing us to be safe and to sing. Page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ushmar seitenu Lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim.
I believe it is a tradition at this point at Temple Israel for our next prayer. So I want to invite, if everyone can take our arms and go up like this. Okay, it's kind of like a Jewish wave. That joke. All right. Yeah. So there is a word in this next prayer. This next prayer is all about the joy of Shabbat, and so the melody kind of captures that freilich, that joy, that celebration of this day. And there's a word in it that shows up in the chorus, although there's a few other places too. If you kind of keep, Cantor will get all of them. I will not get all of them. And it comes from actually a Hebrew word that has no parallel to English. So I'll not go into it tonight, but another time, or maybe that'll be one of the questions. But,
Explain it.
Explain it, yeah. And I'll say it's a pen, which it is in Hebrew. It's a pen. It's also a strange grammatical structure in the Hebrew. But anytime that happens, I want to invite us to raise our arms. So I'm going to give us a practice run real fast. I'm going to count to 3, and then I'm going to say et. And I want to invite us all to do it. Can we do it? And I'm counting out everyone at home, too, to do it. All right. 1, 2, 3, et. All right, we're ready for this.
These are really good.
Totally ready. This is that was amazing.
Wow, they're pros.
I mean, maybe they were practicing.
I think they were practicing.
Maybe you were practicing. Okay. Well, let's join together Vishamru on page 44 of our prayer books.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
I just want to point out that everyone here was here in a moment when I got one of the answer canted in, because usually it's completely the other way around. So just
You're witnesses.
you are witnesses. Well, this next prayer, I have to admit, I always thought when we get to the later verses of it, not this part is gorgeous, I will say here and now and from this bima, that whoever wrote this version and this melody for this is so powerful and deep and haunting, and I hold it in my heart truly all week. That was Bill Shafton wrote this melody. I have to mention about the chanting for the rest of the prayer. It's kind of boring a little bit. We have all of these amazing melodies, all of these beautiful and powerful things that we sing, and we get to this prayer, which is at the center of our service, and it's always the same. It's kind of chanted. And for years, I didn't really look forward to it. You know, I saw it as, okay, well, we'll do the Amidah. That wasn't until I actually became a parent. And I started looking more carefully and closely at the words that are in this particular prayer. And it talks about the God of our ancestors, or the connection and spiritual life that the people before us had. And I started feeling a little more connected to it. And I think maybe there's something else in there, which is not just that it reminds us that we are the heirs to a powerful and beautiful tradition, but when we offer those same words and that same melody, we're joining that tradition. The same way that these words have been chanted and offered not just for years past, but generations as well. And so we enter that profound line of generations. This prayer, speaking not just today, but for generations and generations past, and generations to be. Let's join together on page 46 of our prayer books. I'd like to invite us to rise in body or in spirit.
My mouth may declare your glory. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Adonai, Adonai, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chastei Avot Be'imachot, U'mevii Geula Livnei V'neihem, Le'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava. Zochreinu lechaim, melech hafetz b'chaim, v'chotvenu b'sefer chachayim, l'mancha Elohim chayim, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, u'moshia u'magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah. Amen. Atah Gibor leolam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah, Rav lechoshia, Morid hatal. Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayim emunato, Lishaynei afar, Michamocha bagevurot, Umidomelach, Melech mimit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua. Michamocha El harachamim, Zocher, Zocher Yitzurav, Lechaim berachamim, Ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol, lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Amen. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'chol yom, yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
I'd like to invite us to continue using either the words we might find in the pages ahead or other words that we might find in our hearts. As we continue on, I invite us also to note any of the insertions for this particular Shabbat, the Shabbat of returning to ourselves, Shabbat Shuvah. We'll come back together again on page 62, and when you are finished, I'd like to invite you to please be seated.
והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי
We've come to the moment for ask the clergy any questions you might have that we may or may not have answers to. Before we begin, I want to mention for all of us who are joining online, again, if you are on Facebook or YouTube, I invite you to join us on tilb.org on the live stream, simply because then we can see your comments, we can see the questions you might offer. I'm going to bring it up in just a moment. And for everyone who's here in our sanctuary, I want to invite us to offer these questions with this microphone. I wonder if I might be able to also get a volunteer to bring the microphone around. Ron, and then you'll maybe pass it over to... fantastic. Okay. So if anyone has any questions, and I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to bring up the chat here so that I can have any questions. Bill, please, yeah.
So I have a question for Cantor to begin. As a Reformed congregation, we have our own sort of wide variety of melodic and song choices that you choose from as to lead us. And then for our High Holy Days, we have sort of the unique nusach and unique songs. How do you kind of come to think of what that means for us as a congregation? And also, you know, like some of the songs that we think of as traditional are maybe only a couple hundred years old, and just curious how you think about that choice process.
The choice process for picking music for, say, the High Holy Days versus Shabbat. So you only get to have the High Holy Days once a year. And the nusach for the High Holy Days is very, very unique and beautiful and rich. And you hear that, da, 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 and everybody knows that it's the High Holy Days. So I wouldn't touch those things, like Avinu Malkeinu and the Barhu and Michamocha. That is so signature to the High Holy Days that I wouldn't change it. And for whatever reason, we've sort of lost the Shabbat nusach. We don't really do a lot with it. So there's a lot more freedom to just pick composed music and whatever moves us and touches us. There are some pieces during the High Holy Days that we don't really sing with nusach, like the Hashkivenu, something like that. We don't. That's not one that's traditionally sung. And we don't have to sing it with nusach. So we can pick and choose. So there are pieces throughout the High Holy Days that you'll hear are composed pieces, choir pieces, and then you'll hear those familiar melodies, Kol Nidre, that are so. Can you imagine if I came in and sang like a pop version of Kol Nidre? And I mean, people would storm out. There's just certain things that, certain things that are sacred in terms of music. All of it's sacred, but like really, truly sacred that you cannot touch. And then there's others that are not as, they don't have to be sung with nusach. It's okay to do it a little differently. So that's where I have the flexibility. Does that answer your question? Okay.
So that inspired me to ask a question about music as performance in the sanctuary, which is rejected. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not the authority. That idea is rejected. I believe that what Bill and you do is performance. But so that creates a tension, it seems to me. I don't know, what are different ways of looking at that?
That's a really good question. Do you want me to repeat it? So the question is, how do I differentiate between performative and prayerful? I mean, is that, and how do I make it more prayerful?
What you do see, are we to reject it as a performance? And just
No,
No?
it's not performative. When you go to a musical, like let's say you were to go to Hamilton, it would be very inappropriate to get up and sing along, right? Because that's not what it is. This is you sitting and listening and watching. But what we do is very different. We're praying together. I'm just the facilitator. And there will come new melodies you've never heard, but eventually you'll get to know them. Sometimes we might have a special Shabbat where I bring out a melody that I'm only going to do that one time, and that may be more of a listening, but you can pray when you're singing along, and you can also pray sometimes by listening. I think there are moments of prayer that are just for listening. So I don't think of that as performative. I still think of that as prayer because I'm communicating a prayer in various ways as opposed to a story that you're following along in the theater. That's a performance. I'm going to tell you a story now. These are prayers, and we all have the words in front of us. We all can dive deep into the meaning of them, and hopefully eventually, if there are new songs, new melodies, you'll come to know them and you'll sing along. And if you don't, hopefully I'm still conveying the essence of the prayer, and you're still feeling it as a prayer, not as a performance. And if it comes off as a performance, then I'm doing something wrong. And if it comes off as prayer and you're moved and you feel the essence of what I'm trying to communicate, then I hope that's what I'm doing.
Hi. So just to pick up on that, I've not been here in a very long time, and
So I ask the rabbis in there.
I would say that that's
So
how
the cantor will be answering this question.
Sorry, go ahead.
You don't want to?
No,
Oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
Please,
Go ahead.
please.
Am I interrupting the two of you?
No.
We get all week to joke around. So.
Okay, cool. Well, I was paying you a compliment. So I agree. I think that I actually don't see a distinction between the two things because they both hit me at the deepest level where music lives.
Yes.
And so that's kind of my own thought about it. And I think what you bring to it, that, I go way back before they had more modern cantors, and you bring the prayer to life for me, I think is how I would describe it, and that's really helpful.
Thank
and
you.
leads to my question, which you also mentioned. So I do find it hard to pray here, not knowing the language and trying to follow the melodies and listening to you describe certain things. My mind isn't quite sure how to rest in a place where it ought to rest, and I just wondered if you'd comment on that. If I'm alone in that, or if you've heard that from others. It's been a barrier to my Judaism, and I just was wondering if you'd comment on it.
I have one suggestion. It's not. I feel that you can look at the Siddur, you can kind of glance at the English and get a sense of what the prayer means, and then sing along on Lai. If you feel the prayer and you have a sense of what the meaning is, Hashkivenu, a shelter of peace, being able to sleep protected by God, and you have that essence of the meaning of it, then the Hebrew isn't important. That's just the language, right? It's your connection to God. And if your connection to God is through lai, 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 or through humming, then join us that way. And I wouldn't let Hebrew be the barrier. I would just feel it in your soul.
Paul, and then we have one online, please.
Oh, well, this is comment, and it kind of addresses your concern, but music is spiritual at its base.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at you look at the real basic roots of things, like the work songs, working on the railroad. They're just tunes and they're words, and they're made to do something. So it doesn't really matter what the words are, it's how the tunes move through you, move through you, move around you, and affect you. That's really more important than the language.
Absolutely.
See?
And also what you were saying before, that, you know, some people, Led Zeppelin is a spiritual, you know, it can be a performance and still be spiritually uplifting. So if the music moves you, then go with that. And I never understood Led Zeppelin's words either. Yeah, Rush. Let me tell you, my husband and I have a spiritual discord on Rush. I don't feel it, and he feels it.
Right. Can we talk about Holy Trinity from here? Yeah, right. Right.
Right.
So I think this is another question for Cantor. The question is, what do you mean by nusach?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
What do you mean by nusach? So nusach they're melodies, they're modes, and they are. When all of this began, there were modes, melodies assigned to different times and places and holidays. So you have special melodies that you only hear on Shabbat. So if we were in an Orthodox community, I would be davening. And davening would just be using the nusach, this certain melody that matches that day. There's weekday nusach, so there's melodies that you only sing during the week. And then there are melodies that you only sing during Shabbat, high holy days, the festivals, and there's just, it's a wide variety. But that way, wherever you are in the world, if you were to walk into a synagogue and they would be singing a certain nusach, you would know, oh, da 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 da, it's the high holy days, or it's Shabbat, or it's a weekday. So you would change how you chant every prayer depending on the time of year, the season, and the holiday. So it's a mode connected to the specific time that you're chanting. Does that make sense? Okay.
So just to add on to that, for people who read sheet music, there's a website called NusachDB. That's NusachDB as in database, which has a lot of the sheet music for all the various, well, not all, but a lot of the various nusachim, exactly what tune goes with what group and what holiday and all that.
Yeah, there's Ashkenazi nusach,
So-
there's Sephardic nusach. I mean, there's,
If you're interested, go to NusachDB.
yeah.
We'll do two more questions. Odette, please.
Quick questions, or maybe not so quick question for you guys. What would be the either midrash or folklore story, something that connects you with each and every holiday that you can say that you would want to pass forward to your children and to generations to come?
You mean, is there a midrash, meaning a story
yeah.
kind of between the words of the text that speaks to us about each of the holidays?
And that you'd want to pass forward to generations or have us all come to know?
There are, I mean, let's see, many. In fact, I think one of the things that is a strength about our community is that we are a storytelling people.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be possible to be a community that just takes things exclusively literally, right? Just read the text. In fact, in some traditions, in some communities, they will begin reading for young kids in Leviticus, because it's very concrete. It says, do this, don't do that, don't do that. But if you roll back to the very beginning of the Torah, there's a lot of brilliant and beautiful things, but it's not very clear. And Rashi, who's possibly the most quoted commentator on the Torah, on that very first verse, says literally, this doesn't even make sense if you don't interpret it somehow. If you don't try and drash it, if you don't try and kind of draw meaning from it. I think that what causes us, I know this is not a direct question, but I think the entirety of us looking at those texts and saying, there's not enough here, but it's pointing me in a direction, and this is what it's inspiring in me. I'm gonna imagine this story, and even if you roll back, 1,500 years or 2,000 years, the stories are contradictory to one another. And it was never an intention or a need that they be consistent, only that they're inspired, and that the text and the stories that we might read from our sacred documents would inspire further and further of those stories. So when you ask the question, are there midrash or are there stories that inspire me that I hope the next generation continues to enjoy? There are many, many, and one of them are the midrashim and the stories that they're going to write and that they're going to come up with. We had a question over here.
Since you opened up the idea of questions, when my grandchildren were here, they asked a question, and I gave them a bad answer, and maybe I could hear one from you folks. When it came in, the Lord is my Redeemer, or redemption. And
It's a little bit, I'm sorry to interrupt, it's a little hard to hear you. I wonder if you might hold the
when
mic.
my grandchildren were
Yeah.
here, they asked a question about the Lord is right, Redeemer, or redemption, and they asked me for my answer, and I quickly put it off with something to do with stamps. And I feel that was a little bit fluffy. And but now you said that we're taking on some questions. What could I tell them?
So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding specifically the
The
source.
word redemption.
Just the word redemption in
Yeah,
our tradition.
The Jewish religion, because it's repeated over and over again.
No, you take this one.
Okay. I was getting close to being able to make the joke. Thank you for joining us for Ask the Cantor this evening. I'll make it now, I guess. Yeah. So redemption, this idea of being redeemed, has been such a powerful image in Jewish tradition that it's literally branched off other traditions, other faiths that we know, of course, right? One of the central tenets of Christianity is this idea of redemption. But we have it in Jewish tradition as well, and this idea that there is a world to come. Now, we are in a Reform synagogue, and one of my very favorite stories of Reform Judaism is the founder of Reform Judaism, Isaac Meyer-Weiss, literally got into a fistfight on the Bima one time over the discussion of what exactly does redemption or the Olam Haba mean. And his particular conversation was, does it mean literally that we will be physically resurrected, or that there is a more broad understanding of what it means to be redeemed? And so I will say that in our tradition, we have this idea of redemption, and it comes with the idea of the Olam Haba. But I think that we can only understand it in the context of Gehenna. Now, Gehenna is often translated into the English literally as hell. They'll just take the words Gehenna and they'll translate it into English as hell. But I will say that I have literally been in Gehenna. I've literally stood in Gehenna. Gehenna comes from the words Ger Hinnom, the valley of Hinnom, which is just outside of Jerusalem, where at one time in history they did human sacrifice. So in the Jewish mindset, we have this idea of hell, of this horrible situation being not something that happens after we die, not something even perhaps supernatural, but the worst possible scenario here and now on this earth. And so too, when we talk about redemption and we talk about Olam Haba often also gets translated into English not as the world to come, but literally as heaven. But it doesn't quite fit in our Jewish context. We don't see it as something perhaps that happens way out in the future, something supernatural after we die. There are ways to look at it that way, and there are many different understandings of what an afterlife might be. But Olam Haba in the Jewish mindset is not something that happens from some supernatural thing. Olam Haba is a vision. It's an idea that we see in front of us and an ideal that we hope and work towards every day. So when we talk about the idea of redemption, we do have the idea that maybe someday we'll get to a place where this world is no longer in repair and that it's already the perfect place and best place that it can be. But at the very least, us here now on this day in September at Temple Israel, I'd like to say that I think rather than seeing it in that way, it might be a hope, an ideal, something that we set in front of us for the potential future.
Rabbi.
Okay, please. Yeah.
Hi. For both of you,
Yeah.
what has been a defining moment for you in regards to your connection to Judaism and your identity as a Jew?
Nice. There's so many. Do you have?
Hi.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. There's a number that come to my mind, right? So I'm thinking of the very first time that I went to the Western Wall. Now, it was puzzling to me because I had heard about this amazing Western Wall, the pictures and whatever, and the pictures always have like sunset, whatever, and I got there and it's a pile of blocks, right? But I remember walking down into the plaza and getting closer and closer to those stones. And I saw other people go up and place their hands on the stones, and then they immediately put their forehead on it as well. And I don't think I had a conscious thought of like, I will do that or I won't do that. But I don't think I recognized exactly why they would put their forehead against it until I placed my hands on it. And there was a quality to the stones that were totally different than I think most or any other materials I had felt before, because it was a natural material. It was a stone. It was rough originally, but it had become so smooth from so many people placing their hands in that same spot that I couldn't help but put my forehead on it as well. I just wanted to be near it. And I think I realized in that moment that we don't have necessarily these supernatural things that unite us as a community. That it's not about those things, even if we were to somehow identify a miracle here or something there. It's that moment of placing my hand on the stone and being connected to every single other person who has placed their hand in that spot, smoothing out the same rough rocks so that we all have that same place that we call home. And I've never done this before, but in that moment, with my hands and forehead on the wall, I just started praying. I mean, I was around prayers. I knew them, but I was not like a spontaneous, like it wasn't like Hamilton where I like burst out into spontaneous song very often. But there was something in that moment about being so profoundly connected that I think was probably my first spiritual moment. So that's what comes to mind.
I have to be honest, I'm not going to have an answer as eloquent as that. For me, it was not one defining moment. It came upon slowly. It was built, little brick by brick, and it came upon me this way. So it was being in a home where it was super important to be Jewish, but not really religious, and not experiencing that piece of it. And having this curiosity growing up, like what is this about? What is Judaism about? I really didn't understand it. And then when I was able to search on my own, going to college and taking Jewish study classes and learning more about Judaism, and it was just like brick by brick. And I remember being a teenager and going to a service and hearing this cantor, and I was moved to almost tears. I mean, I didn't know it could be like that. It was so spiritually moving for me. So then that brick was there, and I went to Israel and I was incredibly moved, and that brick was there. And so, and then it's been steps like that for me. And then leading Shabbat for the first time and hearing and seeing all these kids and all these people and hearing their voices singing along with me and having that be, because I was a performer for many years. So feeling that difference and knowing in that moment that I wasn't a performer, that I was praying with people, I went home and I just knew, like, it had been coming upon me slowly, and in that moment I knew. So I don't have one big moment, just lots of little beautiful moments along the way.
Hello. This is my first time coming to this synagogue, and so I have a question for Rabbi Fox, and actually you too, Cantor, just in different ways. How did you both come to be involved in this synagogue specifically, Temple Israel Long Beach?
I know your story, so I'm gonna tell my story quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm actually from San Diego. I was born and raised out there, and I've hopped around a bit. So I've worked in different communities, and I'll spare you the story of my journey to the rabbinate. But I served in communities in a few different places around the country, and most recently we were in the Midwest, and we had a baby, and we thought, well, this is a beautiful community. Is this the community that we want to set down roots in? We knew that we wanted to come back to a place where we could kind of just let our little one just run around, you know? And so we did a search, and we looked at different communities, and Dory's my partner, we talk about this all the time, that there was one moment in one of our visits here at Temple Israel where, now it was before the pandemic, but Dee, I think, was 5 months old, something like that. 4 or 5 months old, maybe 6 months old. And we're in a conversation, and I turn to Dory, and she's not holding a D. And I'm not holding a D. And we kind of look around like, wait a minute, where's a D? And of course, a D was in someone's lap with this tremendous love. And it was that moment that we said, this is home.
Mm. Wow. I moved to Long Beach as a teenager, and we started coming to this temple, not right when we moved here, but shortly after. So my parents were longtime members, and then I got married, I left, I sang in LA and New York, and I kind of had that career, and then we were living in New York, and I was pregnant with my first child, and I wanted to be back with family, so we came back here, and I started shortly after that, leading the Shabbat services here, and I fell in love with it, and I started Cantorial school, and then I left and was a cantor at another synagogue, and now, as of July 1st, I've been here, and I feel very blessed and so happy to be home and in this synagogue that I love so much, with this community I love so much.
Wow, those are both wonderful connections. Thank you for answering.
Well, Ron, since you are holding the microphone, I'm going to invite you up to offer announcements this evening. Hold on to your questions. We'll have more opportunities to wonder together, to ask questions together. Thank you for joining us for Ask the Cantor.
It was both of us.
I do here. Yeah. Thank you for.
All right, so Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and
Shalom.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tov.
And so, let's see, this is the first Shabbat of the new year. I'm trying to find where the cameras are. That's probably our camera. Yeah, and so join us tomorrow. So first of all, tomorrow is September 11th, which is the 20th anniversary, according to the Gregorian calendar, for the attacks, 20th anniversary of the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. I was living in New Jersey at the time. And anyway, there is an event somewhere in Signal Hill, I believe, and Rabbi Fox will be speaking at that event. So we have Torah study here, in person and on Zoom, led by Jael Hadef. And morning services tomorrow are going to be led by Cantor Cooper. So Torah Center at 8:45, and then morning services at 10:30. See? Okay, yes, and if you're if you don't feel like going to a service, then go to then you can go to where is it? Unity Monument in Signal Hill. Just there's not going to be a lot of parking there, so try to carpool or climb the hill on foot. And Sunday. Okay, so Sunday morning begins our Rick Falk Memorial High Holy Days food drive. Come between 9 to 1 p.m. to drop off your food donations, either on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, or, it's not on this sheet here, but I know it, or if you want, if you don't feel like driving and bringing your food, there's also in the emails, there is a donation button where you can just donate directly to the food drive. Also on Sunday, it's not on the sheet. Also on Sunday, the Torah Center begins. So if you have children, if you are children in Torah Center, then it's going to be exciting. Parents are not allowed in the building, so it's a good time to teach your children to ride the bus, or else, yeah, but be careful. There's going to be a lot of children on the street, so be careful driving. Monday, we have the membership committee meeting. So if you want to be involved in membership, please contact Lori here in the back. And if you're on Zoom, you can contact her by email. I believe it's something like VP membership at TILB or something like that. Yeah. Okay.
Membership at tilb.org. Yeah.
Okay. So that's on Monday. And Yom Kippur services are on Wednesday evening. We start with Kol Nidrei. It says here that times are listed, but I think we should tell people what that is, because there has been a change in time. We're only going to have one service for Kol Nidrei. I believe it's 7:30.
Yes.
So the fast begins at 6:40. I actually checked that. Okay. So the fast begins at 6:40, which gives you plenty of time to come here by 7:30. Unless, of course, you are sharing a ride with a choir member, in which case you need to start your fast a little bit early.
It's
And
you.
yeah. And then Yom Kippur in the morning. I believe, Bill, there's not going to be the meditative minyan, or is there?
I'm open.
So I
can do an abbreviated version. How's that?
Okay. So apparently there will be. I just found out. I just found out Yom Kippur morning, if you're up and early, that there will be a meditative minyan at 7:30. And then there will be, you know, I'm not sure I can make it because I am sharing a ride with a choir member for the morning service.
You can do it on the phone on the way.
The morning service starts at 9 o'clock, and then we have Zoom forums at 12:30, I believe. After that, there's a service in the park. Then we're back here at 4 o'clock for the afternoon services that go all the way till Havdalah, sometime late in the day. That is Thursday, and I believe that's it. if you have, and Friday next week, there's going to be a Shabbat service here. I believe at 6 again.
With Mark Thompson.
And Mark Thompson.
Yeah.
Oh, Mark
Uh,
Thompson, that's news to me. So
Yeah, so 6 o'clock, Mark Thompson is going to be leading the service that evening.
okay. So if you ever have a question about how to attend one of our classes or programs, look for our emails or call the temple office, and our staff is happy to help you. And Andrea, you want something?
If you could repeat it.
Okay. All right, so let me just repeat it. We still need volunteers to help with the food drive on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Call Andrea Friedenthal. You can find her in the directory. Cheryl? Where can... Yeah, I've seen it, and I've seen the list. So the question was about the list of foods that we need to donate, and I remember it from some emails. I don't remember which emails, but some of the emails in my inbox had the list of food. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was an email sent out today.
Yeah.
And if you have additional questions, ask the temple office.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Shana tova and gmar chatima tova.
Shana tova, Gamar Chatima Tova, a good year, and may we all be inscribed for blessing in the book of life. Well, as we call out for blessing this Shabbat, our thoughts turn to those in our community who are in need of healing. And we know that that is a healing of the body or a healing of the mind, healing of the spirit or the soul. And so together we think of Miriam Elisheva, Colleen Carver, Darren Hammer, Lori Gerstmann, Steve Gratch, Laura Bleiberg, Robin Nahan, Harriet Ellis, Bob Wallace, Shoshana Ariella Elisheva, Bob Bender, Wendy Bender, Dorothy Kay, Joshua Kay, Marlene Sanchez, Hannah Hamrosbrock, Rich Lapellis, Leah Pask, Burton Gifford, Kim Gifford, Jordan Gifford, Brandon Barry, Marcella Gersh, Randy Holbert, Wade Chernick, Sandra Chernick, Nadine Picar, Anita Noriga, Leon Bland, Carlos Sanchez, Rosalind Daskal, Helene Miller, Barbara Wiegling, Yaakov Ben Eliyahu Yudit, Erwin Spiegel, David Randall, Danny Grief, Sharon Eisner, Diane and Nick Repkin, Bill Raphael, Janice Robbins, Brian Edelman, Cheryl Fossum, Marina Rothstein, Chaim Joe Adler, Janet Hyman, Bill McDaniel, Ellie Brooks, Andrew Paella, Beth Palmer, Virginia Wilson, Bertha Spears, Mike Molly, Sherry Cohen Hanover, Linda Allen, Jim Kellner, Julie Raphael Wood, Rachel Herman, Janice Krantz, Mindy Raphael Hyde, Larry Blum, David Roman, David Keene, Andrew Paella, and Richard Mills. I'd like to invite, if anyone is joining us online, if you are joining us on the temple feed on tilb.org, the live stream, to add the names of those that you are thinking of. I'll call and read them in just a moment. Now I'd like to invite, if anyone here in our sanctuary is thinking of someone they'd like to share their name aloud, to please do so as my eyes pass across the room.
Hannah Balkhana and Nell Birkin.
Anita Gonzalez, Bunny Rudolph, and Olivia Shields. Together we offer words of healing, Misha Berach, on page 253. 253 of our prayer books.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We continue with the Aleinu on page 282 of our prayer books. I'd like to invite us to rise in body or in spirit.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Well, our thoughts now turn to those in our community who have died in recent days or in this season in years past. So our thoughts are with all of those near to Jakob Bosner, dear member of our community. And our thoughts as well are with Christina and with Bill Shafton, close friends with Willow, Jackson, and Nikki Love, beloved wife and children of Alan Love, who died suddenly on Thursday. And our hearts are with those near to David Blumberg. So our hearts go out to those observing Shloshim, Sherry and John and Marcy. As well, we think of those near to Bill Coleman. We think of Sharon and Rachel and Brian, Kyla, Ella, and Lola. We think of those near to Marty Karasik. We think of Cindy and Mark, Harrison and Amelia. We think of those near to Fritz Howe. We think of Basha and Naomi and Shifra. We additionally mark the yard site, the anniversary of the death of Herman Albert, David Barrett, Barbara Bernstein, Gertrude Bort, Sandit Cohen, Jetty Cooperman, Edmund Edelman, Joseph Fairs, Marcia Fetterman, Rosalind Feldman, Morris Finkelstein, Catherine Friedman, Saul Fruchtender, Louis Gale, Lori Glickman, Jacob Green, Louis Hillinger, Ruth Collar, Rose Kaufman, Sophie Crushton, May LeBeau, Violet Layden, Gilbert Lavin, Sidney Levy, Alan Levy, Alvin Levy, Norman Miller, Susan Morton, Sally Muslin, Everett Phillips, Rose Rosen, Salim Sassoon, Harry Schaefer, Daniel Shafton, and Evelyn Wasserman. If you are here observing Shiva or Shloshim, thinking of someone near to you, or observing the 12 months after their passing or the yard site, you'd like to share their name aloud so that we might all hold that person in our hearts, I'd like to invite you to add their name to the chat on our website, as well as to share their name aloud as my eyes pass across the room. Now I'd like to invite all of us to rise together in body or in spirit and in love and in solidarity. We offer the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294 of our prayer books. Yitkadal, Yitkadash Shemei Rabba, Be'alma Divarach Yirtei Be'almlich Malchutei, B'chayechon U'vyomechon U'v'chaye D'chol Beit Yisrael, B'agala U'vizman Kari V'imru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Leolam Olmeo Maya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei D'Kudisha Barichu, Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shurata, Tushvachata V'nechamata, Damiran Be'alma V'imru, Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. V'sei Shalom B'mromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'imru, Amen. Zichronam Livracha, may the memories of those near to us always be a source of blessing. I invite us together to say, Amen. We close our service this evening with a vision of hope, a vision of peace. So together we offer the words, Od Yavo. These words are found in the very back of our prayer book. I'll give the page number in just a minute. If somebody else has the page number, then beat me to it. $353. Let's sing together. O Javo, there is peace in this world, and we can build it.
O Javo Shalom Aleinu, O Javo Shalom Aleinu, O Javo Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kulam. O Javo Shalom Aleinu, O Javo Shalom Aleinu, O Ojavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu, Ojavo Shalom Aleinu, Ojavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu, Ojavo Shalom Aleinu, Ojavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu, Ojavo Shalom Aleinu, Ojavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu, Ojavo Shalom Aleinu, Ojavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu, Ojavo Shalom Aleinu, Ojavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Ojavo Shalom Aleinu, Ojavo Shalom Aleinu, Ojavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
A special, special thank you to David York for offering powerful and beautiful music this evening. Thank you, David. A powerful thank you to Bill Shafton for a powerful thank you to Bill Shafton for okay, a very weak in a whisper. Thank you. A profound and beautiful music. Thank you, Bill, and wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom, joining us online and in person. Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova Umituka. A good and sweet new year.